Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The city of Aradin had always been a place of wonder. Tall spires of ancient stone reached for the heavens, casting shadows across narrow streets lined with bustling market stalls. Merchants shouted their wares, the scent of roasted meats and spices filling the air. But amidst the vibrant life of the city, something darker stirred. Beneath the surface, whispers of a growing evil echoed through the streets, and the once peaceful city had become a place of unease. Aaron, a young warrior fresh from his training, walked through the crowded square. His hand instinctively rested on the hilt of his sword as his sharp eyes scanned the faces of the townsfolk. Most of them went about their business, unaware of the growing danger, but Aaron felt it deep in his bones. He'd always had a sense for when something was wrong, and lately, that feeling had been gnawing at him relentlessly. He made his way to the small tavern on the edge of the square, where his mentor, Sir Garin, had summoned him. As Aaron pushed open the creaking wooden door, the familiar scent of stale ale and roasting meat greeted him. The tavern was dimly lit, a fire crackling in the hearth as a few patrons huddled around tables, nursing their drinks. Garin sat in the corner, his weathered face half hidden beneath the hood of his cloak. His gray eyes met Aaron's, and the young warrior knew immediately that the old knight had grave news. "Aaron," Garin greeted, his voice low and rough from years of battle. "Sit. We have much to discuss." Aaron slid into the chair opposite his mentor, his heart already heavy with the weight of what was to come. Garin didn't waste any time. "Malrak has fallen," he said simply, his eyes hardening. Aaron's breath caught in his throat. Malrak was one of the most respected mages in all of Aradin. He had been a protector of the city, a man of wisdom and power. To hear that he had fallen was unthinkable. "What do you mean, fallen?" Aaron asked, leaning forward, his voice barely above a whisper. Garin sighed, his shoulders sagging. "He has made a deal with a demon, Aaron. A powerful one. His thirst for power has consumed him, and now, he seeks to bring ruin upon the city. I fear it may already be too late." Aaron felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard tales of mages who dabbled in dark magic, trading their souls for power, but he had never believed that Malrak would be one of them. "We have to stop him," Aaron said, his voice firm. Garin's eyes softened, and for a moment, Aaron saw the weariness in the old knight's face. "That is why I called you here, lad. I'm too old for this fight, but you. You have the strength, the heart. Malrak can still be saved, but only if we act quickly." Aaron nodded, determination settling in his chest. He couldn't let Aradin fall. He couldn't let Malrak be consumed by the darkness. "Where is he?" Aaron asked. "In the old tower, on the outskirts of the city," Garin replied. "He's been there for weeks, performing dark rituals, preparing to complete the pact with the demon." Aaron stood, his resolve solidified. "Then that's where I'll go." "Be careful, Aaron," Garin warned. "This is not a battle you can win with strength alone. Malrak's power is beyond anything you've faced before. You'll need to be smart. And remember, the man you're facing isn't the Malrak you once knew. The demon has twisted him, made him into something else." Aaron nodded again, gripping the hilt of his sword tightly. He left the tavern without another word, his mind already focused on the task ahead. As he made his way through the winding streets of Aradin, the city's once familiar sights and sounds seemed distant, almost alien. His heart pounded in his chest as the weight of his mission settled upon him. The tower loomed in the distance, its dark silhouette standing against the twilight sky like a grim sentinel. The closer Aaron got, the colder the air became, as if the very life of the land was being drained away by Malrak's dark magic. when he reached the base of the tower, Aaron hesitated for a moment. He could feel the dark energy radiating from the structure, pulsing through the ground beneath his feet. Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the heavy wooden door and stepped inside. The interior of the tower was as cold and unwelcoming as its exterior. Dark stone walls were lined with strange symbols, glowing faintly in the dim light. The air was thick with the stench of sulfur and decay, and Aaron's stomach turned as he moved deeper into the tower. He found Malrak in a large chamber near the top of the tower. The mage stood in the center of a glowing pentagram, his hands raised above his head as he chanted in a language Aaron didn't understand. The air around him crackled with dark energy, and Aaron could see the faint outline of a demonic figure standing behind him, its red eyes glowing with malice. Malrak! Aaron shouted, drawing his sword. The mage turned slowly, his once kind face now twisted with hatred and madness. His eyes, once a deep brown, were now black as coal, and his skin had taken on a sickly pallor. Aaron, Malrak sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. I see Garen sent his little pup to try and stop me. Stop this, Malrak, Aaron said, his voice steady. This isn't you. You don't have to go through with this. Malrak laughed, a cold, hollow sound that sent shivers down Aaron's spine. You're a fool, boy. You have no idea the power I've gained. This city, this world, it will all be mine. I won't let that happen, Aaron growled, stepping forward, his sword at the ready. Malrak's eyes flickered with amusement. Oh? And how do you plan to stop me? With that little toy of yours? He gestured to Aaron's sword, his lips curling into a sneer. Aaron didn't respond. He charged forward, swinging his blade with all his might. But before his sword could connect, a wall of dark energy erupted from Malrak's hands, throwing Aaron across the room. He slammed into the wall, pain exploding through his body. You see? Malrak said, his voice filled with arrogance. You are nothing compared to me now. Aaron struggled to his feet, gasping for breath. His body ached from the impact, but he refused to give up. He had to stop Malrak. He had to. Once more, Aaron charged at the mage, but this time, he was ready for the dark magic. He dodged Malrak's blasts, using his agility and training to stay one step ahead. But no matter how fast he moved, Malrak's power seemed to grow stronger with every passing second. Finally, in a desperate move, Aaron managed to land a blow, his sword slicing through Malrak's side. The mage let out a scream of rage, staggering back as dark blood seeped from the wound. You will pay for that, Malrak hissed, his voice laced with fury. Before Aaron could react, Malrak raised his hands once more, and a wave of dark energy surged toward him. Aaron tried to block it with his sword, but the force was too great. The blast knocked him to the ground, his sword flying from his hand. As Aaron lay on the cold stone floor, pain racking his body, he felt despair creeping into his heart. Malrak was too powerful. There was no way he could win this fight. But then, as he lay there, a voice echoed in his mind. It was faint, barely more than a whisper, but it was there. Faith, Aaron. Your strength comes from within. The voice was familiar, comforting. It was the voice of Father Talon, the old priest he had met on his journey. Talon had spoken of the power of belief, of the strength that came from within. Aaron closed his eyes, focusing on that voice. He pushed the pain from his mind, pushing the fear aside. He could feel his strength returning, not physical strength, but something deeper, something stronger. Aaron rose slowly, his body aching from the battle, but his heart filled with newfound resolve. The words of Father Talon echoed in his mind: faith, inner strength, the belief in something greater than oneself. That was the power he had forgotten, the strength that went beyond muscle and steel. It was the conviction that he could stand against evil, even when it seemed impossible. Malrak, clutching his bleeding side, glared at Aaron, his eyes burning with hatred. "You fool," the mage spat, his voice ragged from the pain. "Do you think a few hollow words will save you? The demon's power is infinite. You are nothing but a speck of dust in the wind." But Aaron no longer heard the taunts. He focused inward, calling upon the strength that had always been there, hidden beneath his doubts and fears. His body felt lighter, his movements more fluid. Without a word, he charged at Malrak again, but this time he wasn't just fighting with his sword. He was fighting with his soul. Malrak raised his hands, dark energy swirling around his fingers, preparing another devastating blast. But Aaron was faster. He ducked beneath the oncoming wave of magic and, with a fierce determination, struck Malrak's staff, shattering it in two with a single blow. The mage let out a furious scream as the dark power surged wildly around him, uncontrolled and unstable. Without the staff to channel his magic, the energy twisted and writhed, threatening to consume him. "You don't understand." Malrak gasped, his voice a mixture of anger and desperation. "This power, it's mine. I earned it." "No, Malrak," Aaron said quietly, stepping closer. "You sold your soul for it. But it's not too late." For a moment, Malrak's expression faltered, his eyes flickering with something like doubt. The air around them seemed to still as Aaron extended his hand toward the mage, offering him one last chance at redemption. "You can still be saved," Aaron said, his voice steady and calm. "You don't have to be a slave to this demon. Fight it. Come back to us." But the moment passed, and Malrak's face twisted into a sneer. "I am beyond saving," he growled, his voice dark and malevolent. "I will never bow to weakness again." As he spoke, the room seemed to darken, and a low, guttural laugh filled the air. Aaron turned, and his blood ran cold. The demon, as Motor, had fully manifested behind Malrak. Its massive form loomed in the shadows, red eyes glowing with malice. Its black, leathery wings stretched wide, and its clawed hands reached toward Malrak, ready to claim what was promised. "You have served me well, mortal," the demon rumbled, its voice shaking the very walls of the tower. "Now, your soul is mine." Malrak's eyes widened in fear, his bravado crumbling as the demon stepped forward. He stumbled back, clutching his chest, where the demonic sigil burned brightly. The power he had craved now came to collect its debt. "No. No, this isn't how it was supposed to be." Malrak screamed, his voice filled with terror. Aaron moved without thinking. He had to act quickly. He couldn't let the demon take Malrak's soul, not while there was still a chance to save him. Drawing upon every ounce of strength left in him, Aaron stepped between the mage and the demon, raising his sword high. "You will not take him." Aaron shouted, his voice filled with conviction. The demon let out a deep, mocking laugh. "And what can you do, little warrior? You are nothing compared to my power." "I have something you will never understand," Aaron said, his grip tightening on the hilt of his sword. "Faith." With that, Aaron drove his sword into the ground, the blade glowing with a faint, golden light. The air around him shimmered, and a radiant energy burst forth from the blade, surrounding him in a protective aura. The demon recoiled, its form flickering as if it were being burned by the light, as Motor roared in fury, lashing out with its claws, but the light shielded Aaron from the attack. The demon's power was immense, but it couldn't penetrate the barrier formed by Aaron's unwavering belief. "You think you can stop me with this trickery?" As Motor snarled, its voice filled with hatred. "It's no trick," Aaron replied, his voice calm and steady. "It's the power of hope. Of faith." For the first time, the demon hesitated. It growled, eyeing Aaron warily, as if sensing that it was facing something far greater than it had anticipated. "You cannot win," as Motor hissed. "His soul belongs to me. The pact is sealed." "Not if I break it," Aaron said. With a deep breath, Aaron reached out toward Malrak, his hand glowing with the same golden light that surrounded his sword. Malrak flinched, fear in his eyes, but Aaron's touch was gentle. He placed his hand on the mage's chest, right over the demonic sigil. "You have to fight it, Malrak," Aaron said, his voice soft but firm. "I can't do this alone. You have to want to be free." Malrak's eyes flickered with uncertainty. He looked at Aaron, then at the demon looming behind him, its red eyes filled with malice. For a moment, it seemed like he might give in, that the fear and darkness had consumed him completely, but then, something shifted. Deep within Malrak, a spark of humanity flickered to life. He had been so consumed by his lust for power that he had forgotten what it meant to be truly free. Now, faced with the loss of his soul, he saw the truth. Power wasn't worth his humanity. Power wasn't worth his soul. With a ragged gasp, Malrak placed his hand over Aaron's, and together, they focused on the sigil. The demonic mark began to fade, its light dimming as the bond between Malrak and Motor weakened. "No," the demon roared, its form shaking with rage. "This cannot be." But it was happening. The pact was breaking. Motor surged forward, desperate to stop them, but the light from Aaron's sword flared even brighter, pushing the demon back. With a final, deafening roar, the demon was forced to retreat, its form dissolving into shadow. As the bond was shattered completely, the room fell silent. The oppressive darkness that had filled the tower was gone, replaced by a calm, peaceful stillness. Malrak collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. The demonic sigil had disappeared from his chest, leaving only a faint scar where it had once been. He looked up at Aaron, his eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and shame. I was a fool," Malrak whispered, his voice broken. "I thought power was the answer. I thought I could control it, but I nearly lost everything." Aaron knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You're free now, Malrak. That's what matters." Malrak shook his head, tears welling in his eyes. "I don't deserve forgiveness. I've done terrible things. How can I ever atone for them?" "You start by living," Aaron said softly. "You made a mistake, but you fought to break free. That takes courage. Now, you have a chance to do good again." Malrak looked down, his hands trembling. "Thank you, Aaron. For saving me from myself." Aaron stood, offering the mage his hand. "We all have our demons, Malrak. The important thing is that you faced yours and won." Malrak took his hand, rising shakily to his feet. Together, they walked out of the tower, the weight of their battle behind them. The city of Aradin awaited, and though there was much to rebuild, there was also hope. Aaron had proven that true strength came not from power or deals with demons, but from within, from faith, resilience, and the will to stand against darkness, no matter the cost. As they stepped into the light of the rising sun, Aaron knew that his journey wasn't over. But for now, he had won. Not just the battle, but the fight for his own soul.